I never thought I'd be telling a story like this, not in a million years. My land, my sanctuary, got ambushed by folks with clipboards and fake titles, acting like they owned the dirt under my boots. They called it a Rural Harmony Council, but it was a power grab dressed up in paperwork. They thought they'd roll over me, scare me off my own acres. They didn't know I'd spent years learning how to stand my ground. Let's go back to the start, where it all began. Drop a pin. Where are you listening from today? Ever build something so real, so yours, that you'd fight tooth and nail to keep it, only to find someone's already plotting to tear it down? This is about my 100 acres in Willow Creek, a stretch of sagebrush and open sky I bought with every dime I had. No bosses, no deadlines, just me, my horses, a handful of geese, and a cabin I hammered together myself. Out here, the silence isn't just quiet, it's alive, like the land's breathing with you. I'd sit on my porch, coffee steaming, watching the sun spill over the hills, and feel my shoulders drop for the first time in years. No city noise, no one barking orders. Just freedom, hard-earned and hard-won. So when I found that first notice stapled to my fence post, I laughed it off. Big mistake. It was a crisp white sheet printed in bold. Willow Creek Harmony Council. Mandatory property assessment. Words like compliance and violations jumped out, like they were written by someone who loved the sound of their own authority. I stood there, squinting at it, thinking some city clerk had mailed it to the wrong address. This is ranch country. The only council out here is me and the wind. I ripped it down, tossed it in the burn barrel, and went back to fixing my gate. That was my first error, thinking it was a one-off. My second was underestimating the man who showed up next, the one who thought a tablet and a title made him untouchable. He rolled in at sunset, a gray sedan kicking up gravel like it was on a mission. Out stepped a guy in a pressed shirt, tied too tight for the heat, clutching a tablet like it was his Bible. "Good evening," he called, voice slick as motor oil. "I'm Victor Crane, chair of the Willow Creek Harmony Council." I leaned on my shovel, dusting my hands. "Help you?" He didn't look at the land, just at me, like I was a problem to fix. "We're ensuring properties meet our harmony standards. Your fence is too tall, and your geese violate noise ordinances." I chuckled. "Noise? The geese are quieter than your car." His eyes narrowed. "Noncompliance triggers fines. Inspections start Monday." He handed me a booklet, Harmony Guidelines, and left before I could reply. I flipped through it that night. Pages of nonsense. Rules on fence colors, bans on disruptive livestock, even a clause about unauthorized starlight interference from my porch lantern. My barn was flagged as an aesthetic obstruction. I burned the booklet, but the unease stuck. 2 days later, new signs appeared, plastic zip-tied to my fence, non-compliant property. Corrective measures required. I tore them down. They came back nailed. Then the enforcers showed up, and that's when I knew this wasn't a game anymore. They came at dawn, 3 men in matching khaki vests, Harmony Enforcement, stitched in red. They walked my property line with cameras and notepads, muttering into radios like they were on a military op. I watched from the porch, coffee gone cold, my horse Daisy, snorting at the strangers. One pointed at my water trough, snapping photos. I stepped out. "Something I can help you with?" They froze. The leader, clipboard in hand, said, "Routine audit. Council protocol." I walked closer. "Got a badge." He puffed up. "We operate under the Harmony Charter." I pointed to the gate. "You're trespassing." "Out." They left, but one dropped a notebook. Inside, a map of my land, my name circled, labeled priority non-compliant. I called my friend, Deputy Alvarez. She hadn't heard of any council but knew Victor. He tried to find the grain store for visual clutter last year. Total power trip. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a prank. Victor had a system. I set up trail cams, motion sensors, and a few noisemakers. Nothing lethal, just enough to know who's snooping. Because I knew they'd come back. And they did in the dead of night, no warning, no courtesy. You ever hear trouble before it arrives? That soft crunch of boots on gravel. Too careful for a fox? I caught it at 3 a.m. sky black, geese restless. I checked the cams, 6 figures, vests, headlamps moving in pairs. One held a tablet, another a crowbar. Radios crackled. Perimeter secure. Approach primary structure. I hit the floodlights, 600 watts, bright as noon. They scattered, one tripping over a feed bucket. Daisy kicked the fence, adding to the chaos. I stepped onto the porch, voice steady. "Morning, folks. Lost your way." Tablet guy recovered, waving a paper. We're seizing non-compliant assets under Clause 15. I sipped my coffee. You're stealing. Leave. They didn't. One raised a stun gun, voice shaky. This is a sanctioned operation. That's when Alvarez's cruiser rolled in, lights flashing. She stepped out, hand on her holster. Drop it now. They froze. Tablet guy stammered. We're within our rights. Alvarez snatched his paper, smudged, labeled draft. She read aloud. Seizure for aesthetic violations? She laughed. You made this up in a basement. They scattered, but not before dropping another map. It showed my land, marked Target Alpha, high resistance. Alvarez looked at me. This guy's got a vendetta. The next week, signs multiplied, metal, bolted, screaming non-compliant. Immediate action required. I tore them down, but they kept coming, now with flyers in my neighbors' mailboxes. Aerial photos of my cabin, labeled Zone A disruptive. Bullet points listed my crimes. Unauthorized livestock, non-standard fencing, hostile demeanor. One line read, resident refuses reintegration. Avoid contact. My neighbor Tom, who'd shared my campfire last summer, stopped waving. The feed store jacked up my prices. Victor was building a wall around me, and it was working. Then came the community meeting. Victor hosted it in his front yard. No permits, just a podium and a banner. Harmony enforcement briefing. I watched from across the road, not hiding. 20 people showed up, some confused, some nodding along. Victor tapped the mic. We're under threat, he said, holding up my property's photo. This resident defies our standards. He endangers our unity. He pointed at me. He thinks he's above the rules. I shouted back. You think my geese are a national security risk? The crowd stirred, but Victor pressed on. Effective immediately, we're isolating non-compliant residents. No contact, no support. Some clapped. I realized he wasn't just posturing, he had followers. That night, a laminated notice hit my mailbox. Tier 3 critical non-compliant. Actions: remove livestock, repaint cabin, attend compliance seminar. The seminar was at Victor's house, titled Fences in Unity, Your Role in Harmony. I nearly laughed, but then my trail cams went dark. I checked, wires cut. A white SUV idled down the road, no plates. I flashed my light, it sped off. Alvarez traced it to Harmony Outreach LLC, Director, Victor Crane. He wasn't just a control freak, he was running a surveillance op. Then they hurt my horse. Daisy, my 10-year-old mare, toughest soul I know. I found her limping near the barn, a gash in her hoof, glass shards scattered nearby. Not an accident, someone placed them there. I carried her to the stable, whispering, You're okay, girl. Alvarez swept the scene. This is a message, she said. I didn't yell. I got cold. That was my line, and Victor had crossed it. I went public. Uploaded everything. Cam footage of the raid, Victor's flyers, the fake warrants, Daisy's injury. Caption: when the HOA plays SWAT. The video exploded. 500,000 views in 48 hours. Neighbors messaged me. They hit my place too. Victor's online supporters vanished. His enforcement team quit. But he didn't stop. He showed up at my gate, no tablet, just a folder. This isn't about your horse, he said, voice low. You've stirred something bigger. He handed me the folder and left. Inside, emails, memos, a document titled Rural Stabilization Protocol, Phase 2. Government seals, names I recognized from old military contacts. My name was listed, primary resistance node. The folder wasn't HOA nonsense, it was federal. A program called Rural Stabilization Initiative, RSI. One I'd worked on 15 years ago, designing community control tactics for post-conflict zones. They'd twisted it, turned it into a playbook to push out rural owners. Files detailed my routines, drone footage of my cabin, even audio of me talking to Alvarez. Victor wasn't the mastermind, just the pawn. The real players were higher up, names I hadn't seen since my service days. I opened a drive from the folder, labeled Willow Creek. It held 4 phases: infiltration, conditioning, pressure, correction. My profile read, autonomous, influence resistant. A video file showed Victor calm, speaking to the camera. If you're watching, you've seen the truth. You're not the target, you're the test. We needed to know how resistance breaks. The screen cut to black. I didn't flinch. I was ready. I filed a whistleblower complaint, redacted neighbors' names, and sent every file to the feds. The story broke wide. News outlets, hearings, former RSI contractors spilling secrets. Victor was indicted for fraud, harassment, and conspiracy. RSI was decommissioned. But I knew better. Programs like that don't die, they relocate. My geese still honk, Daisy's healing, but the quiet's different now. Max, my dog, growls at passing trucks. I got a new drive last week, unmarked, with one file. Midwest Beta. Coordinates, no names. They're not done. Neither am I.